Welcome to the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT, the show built for professional truck drivers, bringing you the latest insights, hot jobs, and tips to keep you moving forward. Powered by Mesilla Valley Transportation, the leaders in safety, fuel efficiency, and innovation, with over 1,600 trucks on the road. Let's hit the road together. This is the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday, happy Tuesday. I am joining you all the way from Austin since I jumped in and heard Pearson talk about, he wasn't in Iraq anymore. He is in another part of Texas. You're in El Paso, right?
Yeah, I'm here in El Paso. We are in the middle of an office move at this moment, which will take place. And so we have about 60 individuals we're trying to orientate this week, while at the same time picking up everything and moving. So it's a fun week, but it's why my office is pretty bland at this moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of got drink stuff behind me or whatever, but I'm in a conference room in Austin at the Motor Vision 25 conference. So that's where I am actually right now. But welcome to the Rig on Wheels show. I am your host and owner here, Camille E. Gaines. And of course, we have Pearson, the VP over there, VP of Recruitment over there at Mesilla Valley. But we are your number one truck driver and recruitment show in the country, as I hear it. And we always bring you all of the hottest gossip in trucking, but no, really, we bring you all of the truck driver industry news, the hot topics, tariff information, everything that's dropping new, Jesus Christ, and all of the truck driver tips and recruitment tips. So we're gonna just jump right in. You got any freight news?
Yeah, it helps if it would still be on my screen at this moment, considering you normally ask that about this time. But a little bit of a look back. They now have the data. The American Trucking Association now has the data for the first quarter. The U.S. freight market slowed in March after a robust February, but data for the first quarter of 2025 as a whole suggested a turnaround was underway, according to the American Trucking Association. Truck freight tonnage in March decreased 1.5% after rising 2.8% in February. ATA's seasonally adjusted for higher truck tonnage index showed the index came in at 113.4 for the month, down from the 115.1 in February. The index for which the year 2015 represents 100 inched up to 0.2% compared to March of 24 for the third consecutive year-over-year increase, a trend not seen since late 2022, early 2023. Of course, 2022 was the last time we really had a large, robust year. So it would appear that the turnaround is taking place. Again, all this was figured before any of the tariffs started, though. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. The unknown holds back people. So it's encouraging. There is improvement and continued improvement, though March went down a little bit, though March was to about 40% of the country weather dependent. So that was going to make March a little interesting. It will be interesting to see what they pull up for the second quarter based off of where we are. It's been our experience freight along the border, which we do about 500 loads a day across the border, has been robust. It gets impacted by holidays more than anything else. So as an example, with Easter, we definitely felt it. And so the next holiday that should impact it most likely is Mexican Mother's Day, as well as the U.S. Mother's Day, one on the 10th, one on the 11th. Mother's Day in Mexico is a really big deal. And I can tell you in El Paso and Laredo, it will impact what kind of freight moves. So with that said, we're excited about where we are. We're seeing progress. California freight still stinks, but there's optimism aboard here. And look, as it appears that Trump's not as dead set and locked in as he appeared to be. He's still talking aggressively, but there appears to be talk.
Yeah, I think maybe he's starting to get a little pushback from his Republican counterparts. They are, because the people on the ground are telling them, you know, you can't just let Trump just run off into the wind with everything. So I think they're starting to get a little pushback. And then not just that, he's only been in office like 100 days, or I think it's less than 100 days. I'm tired. That is for sure. If he could just give me a call and let me know what's going on, I would be okay with everything. But I don't think he's going to personally give me a call.
You heard it here first. Trump is going to be on this podcast next week. Camille, that's a big get.
Yeah, that would be it. I would be floored if that happened. But before we get into his tariff business, I was able to pull up the average diesel in the U.S. as of yesterday was $3.53 per gallon for diesel. But not less than a year ago. A year ago, yesterday, it was $4.44. So it is 51 cents less. That's crazy. That's a lot less. That's not like a little less. That's a lot less. But according to the Energy Information Administration, so that is pretty reputable. We can't get any higher than that. That's for sure. But as we all know, and Pearson always points out, everybody in DOT land is not just diesel. Some of us are gas running. So as of yesterday, gasoline was $3.14. I did not get what the average was last year, but it was $3.14. I know when I picked up and filled up yesterday, it did not break the bank. That's for sure.
For this same week last year, well, hold on a sec. That's diesel, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. Gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
For gasoline, I can tell you last year, so it's not as dramatic. Gasoline at this point was $3.089. Its spike was in May. In May of 24, it got up to $3.66.8.
Okay, yeah. So 308. Oh, actually, that means it was less last year. So it was more this year.
Yeah.
Gasoline was a little bit more. 5 cents. 6.
Well, let's see. It's at $3.14 right now.
And it was $3.08 last year.
Yeah, it was $3.08 at the beginning of last year. But it was at 3.
That means the world is going to end.
In May of its peak was in April 22nd. It got up to $3.66.8. So it's gone down by about 50 cents.
Oh, so it's less.
It's less than May because the unleaded gasoline was $3.08 in January of last year. In March of last year, it started to go up and kept climbing. And then by April 22nd, it was $3.66.8. And then gradually it's declined since then.
Well, what I'm ready for is when it's actually the opposite, so I can be all dramatic. That's what I'm ready for, is being all dramatic and all of that. But
nothing stopping you from doing that right now, Camille.
You know, but I won't have a reason for it. I'll work up to. I'm going to create a reason. I'm going to go ahead and create some type of reason to be dramatic next week. But so when this came across and I saw Bloomberg put this out, and then I saw about Mack Trucks. Then I saw that, what I see? Sorry, I didn't even put this on a sheet yet. I want to talk about it right quick. The layoff with the American manufacturing. Okay, so the layoffs with the American manufacturing, I saw Bloomberg and Forbes talking about this first. About Mack Trucks, and then I pulled up with Transport Topics, and they were talking about it as well. But we know some of it is about the tariffs. But remember when Mack was doing that whole giving those union workers everything, giving them all the bath water. I don't want to mess up the whole thing, but giving them everything. So we knew that this was going to happen anyway. So as much as I would love, now let me tell you, I would love to blame Trump. The next thing that we're going to talk about, I will blame Trump. I'm pretty sure you're going to say no, it's something else as well. But the next thing I will blame Trump on. This I can't blame Trump all the way on, because Mack knew that this was going to happen. It's just that the tariffs probably pushed it fast. But basically, when they were giving everything to those union workers and all of that, it's only so much money to go around. Let's face it, they're not going to mess up their profits, one, and they're not going to decrease their pay for the top executives. So people need to understand that when these companies do these spectacular packages, how they do them. So now Mack Trucks and Volvo Group are both laying off, and they're going to be laying off more significantly. And it's going to be huge. But also we know that there is as well a shortage in heavy truck, blah, 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 because that's what they classify as just globally heavy truck. But in the trucking world, as far as buying trucks, nobody but MPT is buying trucks.
There's some out there, but it is, and I will say this too. So in Mack Trucks, keep in mind that they are family run. So most of the leadership literally has the last name Mack. I can tell you that the CEO compensation for Danny, or not Danny over there, but who's the guy? Who's their CEO? I know this name, and it's drawn a blank on me. Terry Mack. Terry Mack's compensation is about $800,000, and for the size and scale of that company, he's one of the lower paid CEOs.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. That's not a lot.
No,
he's not a lot.
He owns a ton of stock. But that's the thing to keep in mind with a lot of these executives is stock is unrealized. Like it is not necessarily the same form of compensation. A lot of corporations are looking at how they're doing that, because you see a lot of CEOs when they take the golden parachute, so to speak, when things go bad, that stock comes back to hurt the company when they pull out of a bunch of that with options. But yeah, Terry and most of the people on the board over there, Terry Mack's the chief executive. You have Dennis Slade is a key person, their CFO, Lee Dissendorf. Most of their people are under $1 million. I don't see anybody here making more than $1 million a year. And they're pretty big. I'm actually surprised at how low their compensation is.
Well,
kind of makes you wonder. Makes you wonder about their financial well-being. That's something to look at over this.
I do know that they are slating that the market uncertainty, basically the tariffs, is the reason, which I think that is the reason today, as far as the reason why it's expedited. Like when a pandemic happened, certain things was expedited. Right, the autonomous trucks, things that they had been thinking, things got pushed faster. That was already in the works, because that fabulous Mack truck and the rest of them with the union, those packages, we knew that certain things was coming down the pipeline. So I just think that these layoffs are just, it's going to just get the ball to rolling faster.
I think it's going to be important to watch the next jobs report. The thing that I will say about the tariffs is no one should necessarily go into panic mode, and the stock market is not a barometer for the economy. Those two things are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
With that said, the jobs report's a big thing. If you see a jobs report where all of a sudden you see 600 to 800,000 jobs lost, then it's time to go into panic mode. That's going to be one of those things. There can be a swing back and forth of a couple 100,000 jobs, and in the country of 340 million people, that's not a significant number. For the person that loses their job, it absolutely is. But if you're judging the overall economy, that jobs report becomes very important. The Fed has held their interest rate, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump. So he's getting into it with the Fed chair at this moment. But with that said, most likely the next time they do act, there will be a rate cut.
Yeah.
But the big thing right now in the tariff is not necessarily with one company or another company, because it's such an isolated part of the economy, is if you see a jobs report where there's a swing of jobs by like 600 to 800,000 jobs in a single month, that's going to jolt the market. And that's going to make a whole lot of CEOs at a lot of companies go, and when it comes to job cuts, you don't want to be last. One of the things I remember from 2008, which was a horrible time, but a lot of CEOs got into these positions where they had to do first round of job cuts, then another round, and then a third round. The hard part for a lot of people in 2008 is the first round of job cuts wasn't necessarily great employees. It was more cutting the fat in the company. But by the time you got to the second and third round, especially that third round of job cuts, you were laying off people that were not bad employees, that were probably really productive employees. You simply couldn't afford them. So the hard part is in that scenario, a lot of really good employees went into the job market at the worst possible time. Which exacerbated the problem and made 2009 and 2010 kind of soft to begin with. That's going to be the thing, is most CEOs are not looking to cut jobs in most cases, but they also have to do some forecasting for the next 12 to 18 months. If you see a jobs number comes out that's 600, 800,000 jobs, you will start to see a lot of decision makers make some very rash and decisive decisions really quick.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs estimates an increase of just under 100,000 jobs in manufacturing industries and heavy equipment, and then downstream industries of a loss of 500,000 jobs, leading to a net reduction of 400,000 in U.S.
So it's going to be interesting to see when that jobs report come out. I'm very interested to see A, the jobs report, and B, if they do any corrections to any of the previous months.
Okay. And then industry-specific observations. Heavy-duty truck manufacturing, the trucking manufacturing sector that is reliant on steel, aluminum components, of course, from Canada, Mexico, China, have been hit hard. For instance, Mack Truck is 13% comes from China, and that makes them vulnerable. So we'll figure it out. But anyway, what I did have on us to basically go in here to talk about was DHL, and I heard this with somebody else as well, but I don't want to throw this out there because I don't exactly remember, so it'll be kind of like gossip. But DHL suspends high-value U.S. Consumer shipments. So basically, anything declared over an exceeding of $800. So it was before things was like over $2,500. Now it's lowering it to an $800 threshold. That's major. And the reason why I'm saying it's major, don't judge me, okay? So when we think about hair extensions, wig units, certain clothes that come in, Shein, I think Fashion Nova has a warehouse here. I feel you judging me, right? But I know that Shein is supposed to be increasing their prices on the 25th. And I've been buying my grandkids' clothes from there lately because they grow very fast. But anyway, so that's how I know that. but yeah, that's why that's huge. So folk that sell hair extension wig, and I know it's other stuff, auto parts.
I was thinking that. I figured you were using code.
Yeah, auto parts and stuff like that. But I'm talking about the things that are most important to me. Wig units. And so when people buy in bulk and things like that, 2,500 is not that much. So 800 is just a Terrell, if you want to jump in, I mean, because you need a unit yourself. So you want to say something. This really affects you.
No, thank you. And stop talking about people who don't have hair.
You need a unit. So this is coming home. So for an example, Terrell was talking today. He was talking about something else, but he was like, for the folks that felt this is not going to affect me. This is not going to affect me. This is affecting people. This is affecting me.
It's interesting, you know, how the tax landscape over the next 12 months is going to be something to keep an eye on as well. You see a lot of states independently looking at removing their income tax, like Kentucky and Mississippi are presently looking at removing their income tax to become more competitive, both from business as well as remote workers. On the flip side, you see the federal government looking to increase tax revenue while still having the conversation about lowering income tax. It is going to be, I could see it being very confusing, the tax landscape here. But a lot of this that we're covering nationally, it kind of goes into what the states are doing, between Mississippi and Kentucky doing that. Of course, Arkansas recently got real strict about English-speaking truck drivers with a lot of what's taken place there. Granted, it's already a DOT regulation. If you look in the FMCSA handbook, being able to read and speak English, Section 392, is already in there, but it appears that Arkansas is going to get very strict about it, with fines on the spot ranging from $500 to $1,000. The landscape on how we're taxed or fined, in particular as it impacts the world of trucking, above and beyond the tariffs, which is kind of stealing most of the news headlines, is going to be something that most drivers need to be cognizant of. And I will tell any truck driver, you should have trucking news as a Google search alert. Anytime you're on Google, take the time, set up an alert, look up anything related to trucking or taxes, business taxes, income. Those are topics as a driver, be it a company driver or owner operator, that those Google news alerts are something you should have easy and ready access to.
So let's clear this up. Do they have to be fluent or just elementary understanding?
So the DOT regulation is that you need to be able to read and speak and understand English. Read and speak. It is rare, even being on the border here, it is rare that we DQ a driver because that's an issue. I could, in the last 3 years, I could count the number of people that got DQ'd here because of that on one hand. It's fairly rare. Now, the confusion is somebody may have an accent, but you know this living in Chicago. There is a large Russian and Eastern European population up there that have an accent. Some of the country's best drivers live up there and are of that descent. Same thing here in this part. A lot of Hispanic drivers live along the border, as you would expect. They aren't giving a speech necessarily in English, but they understand the language well. A lot of our B1 drivers that come across the border, take freight in and come back out, may not speak like a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., like non-regional dialect, but don't have an issue with it. There was an issue a couple years ago, I believe, in Arkansas, where there was an accident that a driver misread or didn't understand a sign, which caused a major accident. That being said, you know, we do these knee-jerk reactionary measures based off of one accident, not saying that that's not a concern. It's already covered at the federal level. The real tail of the tape is going to be the devil's in the details. how they implement this, because theoretically they could write a fine on the spot. So if Barney Fife gets excited and wants to write up a bunch of people, it starts getting in that parallel of being real subjective if somebody can read and write it. There's times when you speak to somebody that's clear they do not understand you. There's other times where you need to, when you talk to somebody from a different country and you slow down what you say, or you use fewer metaphors as an example, more military speak. We'll see how this is implemented, because they're moving forward with it in Arkansas.
That's my problem. Good old Arkansas. So a lot of this is a big issue for me, because people will take an accent to use it to profile somebody as ignorant or something like that. And let's be very clear. The United States is the only state that does not understand that it does not make, I had to choose my words that my mother would be accepting of. It does not make you smarter that you only know one language. Okay. So with saying that, if somebody has a accent, which we all have accents, right? I have an accent. I'm from Chicago, but I sound like I'm from South Carolina, right? Now, Pearson, you didn't have to be so agreeable about that.
Oh, I was listening to you. Sorry.
Okay. So, but with saying that, like you said, if they're talking to them and somebody from Arkansas is talking, first of all, I don't understand most people that are speaking to me from Arkansas if they're born and raised from Arkansas. I do not understand them. And then if you have somebody, let's say that they are born and raised in Mexico and now they live here and they've been driving here for 10 years, or let's say they just been driving here just for 4 years. And they're not used to somebody that's speaking from Arkansas and they're talking to them. They're not going to understand what they're saying. It doesn't matter what they're saying. And so now they're pulling them over. If they're not able to pass stuff and they don't have the money for the fine, they're putting them in handcuffs.
Yeah, so I'm somewhat torn by this, but again, it's covered at the federal level. Like a requirement of the FMCSA is that you are able to read and communicate in English. We're not the only industry with this, the airline industry, because obviously with control towers, you cannot have somebody from Turkish Airlines flying into Houston not being able to speak English. And just like in aviation, English is the language of aviation around the world.
Right.
So when you fly into Tokyo, the control tower communicates in English. And so, because you have to have that universal language for that industry.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike day-to-day speech, I get the rule, because you need to, from a safety perspective, have a common language. The U.S. does not have an official language. We're one of the few countries in the world that does not have an official language.
Right.
The industry has an official language. It is absolutely English. It's regulated at the federal level. I understand a DOT officer and what they look for, and most DOT officers will go into many companies and explain how they gauge it and judge that. At the state level, this is going to be the part that's going to be hard to implement here, is we don't have states that regulate this. This is regulated by federal or DOT officers. So on the interstate, they do not have jurisdiction above DOT or the state patrol. When you get into the highways and the back roads, which if you make deliveries, you will go on those roads, or go to a truck stop, you will get off the interstate. That's going to be the part where this gets implemented. So part of me wonders if this increases rates, or if it stops people from hauling freight into Arkansas, which artificially will increase rates on any freight going into or out of the state of Arkansas. Unfortunately, DAT and the other ones that follow the spot market follows more, excluding California, follows more regionally than state by state by state. But one of the things we talk about, costs increasing. If you live in Arkansas, which is a low cost of living state compared to most of the country, but the salaries in Arkansas are also fairly suppressed compared to a California or a major metropolitan area. You got two factors here: is A, how are they going to implement this? B, does it shy away carriers going in and out of the state? Mind you, there's some large carriers headquartered in those states that have drivers that would be B1s. PAM Transportation has probably about 300 to 400 B1s, I believe.
Yeah, they have a lot of
USA Truck has about 200 to 300 B1s, I believe. And so it's going to be interesting, A, how those companies based in the state that depend
US
on
Express.
Yeah, but they're not based in Arkansas. I'm talking about companies based in Arkansas.
They based out of Chattanooga.
They're based in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Don't judge me.
Stop relocating cities. And so, but you have Maverick there that I don't know that's really in the B1. You have some other players, but the big ones are PAM and USA Truck that have a heavy presence of B1 drivers.
My issue is those the small towns. Arkansas is a sundown. This is the opinion of Camille Gaines, not the opinion of MVT. But Arkansas is a sundown state. So with saying that, you have people that are going to be trying to decide whether or not this person can read or write in English, and Arkansas, a school system isn't the best as well. These are just, it needs to be something more formal. Also, when you say the aviation, correct? Now we're comparing it to that. If we're going to compare it to that, which I do want us to be compared to them, we need to have uniformity when it comes to them as well. But also, United States is not considered English speakers compared to anywhere else in the world anyway, because everybody else speaks British English. So let's start there. But even if just coming back to just DOT or just, transportation, most transportation, that is the reason why we have to bring up our requirements as far as professional drivers so we can meet the standards of aviation. And our drivers be considered just like pilots and things like that. And everything be on that level, so I'm not having to talk about a sundown state and because
part of our challenge as an industry is we need to do a better job of selling the professionalism of the driver. And I'll give you an example. So we have about 450 drivers with Mesilla Valley that were not born in the U.S., came from countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Zambia, Tunisia, Ukraine, and a number of other countries, Colombia, through a company called Visa Solutions based out of Houston, not far from your office, about a 15-minute drive. They read, they speak English, they have proficient English. When they literally come here, within 2 weeks of them getting here, I go up to Nebraska and physically meet them in person while they go through their training on understanding the differences in this country. The fear from a lot of folks early in the program's implementation in 2018 was that we're bringing in people because it was cheap labor. It's not. They make the same as any of our other drivers. Legally, you have trouble hiring these people through immigration if you tried to pay them less. Like, it's part of the laws that are in place. You cannot bring them in for cheap labor.
And it's a whole lot of work.
It is. It's not a short process. And generally about 3 to 5 years, though COVID in some cases made it longer. On top of that fact, you're paying them the same as a U.S. based worker. B, they will tell you they feel an obligation to be safer. And statistically, I can tell you they're extremely safe. They take a lot of pride in it, but they also are that way because they feel like they need to be. They don't want to lose the opportunity.
Yeah.
So they tend to be very methodical when it comes to safety. But from an outsider's perspective, if you don't know the program and you don't know any of those facts, your first thought in your mind is immigrants are coming to take my job. And it leads to a whole bunch of other assumptions that you go down the pathway once you start at that basis point. Be it a B1, somebody H1B, what is it? H1, it's H1B1 or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah,
I'm drawing a blank. I was drawing a blank. These folks don't get here because it just happened to be random circumstance. They are generally here because they have a whole bunch of checks they have to hit on before they get to be here. Most people do not have that perspective, and it takes one incident, one major catastrophic incident that will undermine all the positive that's been gained on that. It appears that Arkansas right now is the lone wolf in this in terms of going down this pathway. Again, a lot of this is in response to an accident that happened 2 years ago that shouldn't have happened. Not with us. We were not involved with it.
Right.
And though Arkansas is not a state that we operate heavily, it will impact. It has to have an impact on PAM transportation. It has to have an impact on USA Truck. And from freight movements coming in and out of there, I have to wonder if people are going to, A, avoid delivering freight into there, or B, if it will impact the driver base that services the state, which if you're somebody that goes to the local grocery store, that matters to you when you see your prices go up. When you have an artificial pull on supply of drivers, you will see that because companies have to compensate for it.
But right now, folk is thinking, some folk is thinking, oh yeah, this is great. But like Terrell says, until they go to the store and they gallon of orange juice costs $15.
Yes.
But it's okay. But what we're gonna do is hi Bianca. What we're going to do is go to commercial, and then we are going to come back and come into the hot job that Terrell was talking about when I was trying to listen in on the juicy conversation him and Pearson was talking.
I feel very, very excited about my achievement. I'm very proud of giving to the company the legacy of the Sandoval family. I'm very proud, very excited. So you can see it on my face. So very excited.
Well, it's been a big passion of ours to get fuel mileage and to be the best. And my goal was to get all the drivers wanting to do it. It'd be one thing if I have 5 drivers kind of get fuel mileage, that's great, but what's that doing for the environment? What's that doing for the company? So by creating the game where he or she with the best fuel mileage at the end of the quarter gets a car, it makes a lot of the people want to do it. So the idea is to get more and more people trying to get through. I mean, we create the best truck we can get. I make a truck that's easy rolling, less parasitic drag, very aerodynamic, and then I got to get in the head of this gentleman and the other people driving and make them want to drive it that way. Or you can drive the car easy. I always say if you treat it like it's about to break, it never will. Treat a truck like a beautiful woman, gently caress it nice and caress it gently and make it last. Makes the truck last, makes you last. And the safety, and he said, patience. Patience is everything. Patience in truck driving. If you're impatient, think about every time somebody pulls in front of you, which is all the time. You get all mad, you can just run into them. You got to try not to wreck with these people. You're always driving defensively, so you ease on the brake and you make sure you don't want to just slam on the brake and then slam on the gas. That kills the brakes, kills the mileage. So when they're being patient, they're slowly taking their time and staying out of the longest line and getting in the shortest line and ease around and just make yourself go gently and go. Just take care of it, and that makes you safer. It makes the tires last, makes the brakes last, makes the motor last, and it makes the fuel last, and it makes the people around us last because we're not running over them. It's safety.
Hey, my name is Roberto Sandoval. I am a driver trainer in this company. I have 24 years as a truck driver here in this company, and I win the 25,000 and also the trainer of the year, mentor of the year. I can't believe it right now, but I do the best always.
What do you do in order to get the best fuel mileage?
I always do, first of all, be positive. Secondly, set my objectives. And third, just do it. No matter what happens, because sometimes you cannot get a good MPGs because there is a traffic, a lot of wind, or heavy loads. But I wait for tomorrow. And don't worry, be positive no matter what happens. Just avoid be anger or I can do it. No, I can do it. I'm gonna do it. That's all we have to do. Don't give up. Never give up.
I'm so proud of Roberto and all the things he's done, and you know, it's not just his family. I forget how many people he's trained over the years, but we've had a lot of car winners and a lot of trainers that are still training here that won a car because they learned from him. They went on, they started here, they saw how he did it, they listened, they watched, and then they go win a car on their own, and then they train somebody who then wins. It just keeps getting passed down. We just keep creating better and better drivers, and a lot of it started at the top, and the top is Roberto Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you.
Always is a pleasure to see you in this season.
It's the holiday season. What would the holiday do without Sandoval?
Hey, good to be back. Shout out to Bianca there. Appreciate the comment. One of the things you can always check out is the Inside Lane. Good source of information targeted really for a lot of the smaller fleets out there as well as large. Got a story right now on there, how smart fleets stay profitable is one of the stories you'll find on the Inside Lane. So theinsidelane.com. Bianca, appreciate you watching today. And folks, check that out. Good source of information and news. They talk about the Mack layoffs, how smart fleets stay profitable, and a pretty interesting part about the expert cybersecurity guidance for small to mid-sized trucking fleets. Some pretty cool content on there right now.
Yes, awesome stuff. I always like to point out that's one of my favorite commercials. One of my favorite commercials.
I love that. Roberto Sandoval is a hell of a dude, humble as all get out.
Yeah.
His greatest accomplishment isn't his driving, though. He's trained probably 12 to 15 people that are also leaders now within the organization. Really good guy. And honestly, if we had 2,000 of him, we would probably dominate trucking beyond just where we already do.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, he's pretty cool, that's for sure. Well, let's go ahead and throw up the max.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Division 100 and kind of an exciting opportunity here. We are looking for solo drivers that live out of El Paso. Pays about $1,400 to $1,600 a week, home every week, running to the Southern Great Lakes states and back down into the area. The other part, though, is we're looking for teams to run this as well. The teams on Division 100 make anywhere between $3,800 to $4,200 a week. We have openings out of Phoenix, Arizona for the first time in this division, as well as El Paso. Normally we get a team home in Phoenix either via El Paso Freight or DFW Freight. But again, teams on this are going to make anywhere between $3,800 to $4,200 a week. Solo drivers anywhere between $1,400 to $1,600 a week, running up to the Southern Great Lakes states and back out into our respective areas again. So that would be Division 100. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next division. I believe that would be Division 400. It is. We are looking for candidates living out of Memphis and or Nashville, Tennessee. Orientation would take place out of Nashville. Average earnings are about $85,000 a year or $1,650 a week, not including the productivity/safety bonus that we also offer above and beyond on this. A lot of great customers running the Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and Southern Great Lakes states. So exciting opportunity there. Orientation based in Nashville. Jason and the folks out there in the operations team have been working with these customers going on decades. So there's a very close bond there. So you're going into a team collaborative environment that you're going to be successful in. And last but not least, Division 440. Right now, it is the division that we have expanding most rapidly at this moment in terms of customer acquisition, as well as expanding our current customer base, looking for drivers out of Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Houston, Texas, DFW, as well as San Antonio, Texas. Orientation on this division normally is going to either take place in Laredo, Texas, or in El Paso, Texas. Exciting opportunities there. This position offers about $1,200 to $1,400 a week, weekly home time, and about 80% drop and hook, as well as some team opportunities as well. Again, if you're a team living in Memphis, Nashville, Houston, DFW, or San Antonio, this division pays anywhere between about $3,600 to $4,000 a week, are what our teams are presently making on this particular division. If you saw these three divisions, 100, 440, or 400, and didn't see us talking about one of the areas that you live in, we also have opportunities right now out of Albuquerque, Denver, Salt Lake City, Jacksonville, Florida, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, and a number of other markets. Plus, if MVT is not the right fit for you, be it geography, experience level, or a number of other factors, when you talk to the fine folks at Rig on Wheels, they have about 40 other clients that they work with all across the country in a number of different niches. We're dry van, no touch, but they work with a bunch of other clients that run the gamut, quite frankly. So call 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100, or visit the folks at rigonwheels.com, get in an application, tell them that you saw the show in the division that you'd like that I mentioned, or tell them what your wants are, your desires are, not what your next trucking job is going to be, but what your career objectives are. Nimmer and Raven and the team are going to work with you to put you in the best position possible, that you're not going into the next 3 months, but you're going into a career path that you're going to be happy with 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Absolutely. And like Pearson said, definitely give us a call. Majority of MVT's positions, you need 6 months experience. But let's say you don't quite have that, or you're not ready to go to them, your MVR still needs a little work. We definitely try to help and set you up with a career path, because we're not just trying to be your recruiter for one time. We want to be your recruiter forever. So we want to set you up for a career path so you can be successful within the industry, not just at where you are right now, because we understand things happen, you move, or you get endorsements, things like that. So definitely give us a call, like Pearson said, at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. If we missed your call, go ahead, leave a message, or we'll give you a call back once we see the missed call, or give us go directly to the website at rigonwheels.com. But it is the end of our time, and we will definitely see you guys next Tuesday, same time at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next week.